computer. And we're recording. Awesome. Okay, guys, I am super, super excited to introduce Kasey to y'all. She has her PhD in psychology. She is a mindset guru. And I just think that's a really valuable tool coming into this craziness, this weirdness. So Kasey, can you, and I asked her to talk about habits and all these wonderful things about why it's important to start them now. And she's gonna chat about that.
Yeah. Hi guys. It's funny. You're just like, how do you even explain like what life is right now? This weirdness, this like, who knows what is even happening. But yeah, so my name's Kasey. I do indeed have a PhD in psychology. I spent the majority of my time in my PhD working on and looking at how mindsets, specifically like growth versus fixed mindsets, play a role in how often we exercise, how healthy we eat, and just health behavior change in general. So I'm now a health and fitness coach, and I'm kind of like bridging the gap between the research that I did in my PhD and bringing that into like coaching land. And I love it. I'm super passionate about it, and I'm excited to kind of talk a little bit about habits specifically today. It was a specific theory in psychology actually that Sarah was interested that I bring to you guys. But first just want to kind of like overlay what habits are. I know most people like, you know what a habit is. It's something that kind of like automatically happens every day, right? But what's interesting is like in this space right now, you would think that it's not really the right time to start like new habits or try something different with your lifestyle. Or if you've been maybe trying to drink more water, obviously going to the gym, not an option, but drink more water, eat healthier, like learn some new recipes, things like that, given what you can get at the grocery store, of course. But in general, habits are set up, obviously they're like an automatic thing, but they're set up based on a cue, your interpretation of that cue, the action that comes after that, and then the reward that you have. And we think of rewards being like, oh, like I get something for it, but it doesn't really have to be that way. It can be just like a good feeling, or that you accomplished something, or the reward is like allowing you to do something else, like it's useful for something else. So for instance, like when you wake up in the morning, your cue is like your alarm clock. You interpret that as like, okay, I have to get up. Your action is like brush your teeth. And then your reward is like, you get to go downstairs and have a cup of coffee. Like that is your habit. That's your morning routine. It looks like that every day. Right now, things might be a little bit different. Your morning routines might look different. Your schedules might be looking different. You might be still figuring out how to even make a schedule. Maybe you've never worked from home before and now you're being forced to work from home. Lots of different things are happening. Lots of different things are moving. And what's interesting is that typically our habits are like much stronger than things like motivation, willpower, intentions, anything like that. So throughout the day, like 50%, it's like 43, maybe 50% of your actions are habitual, but right now it's like everything is kind of tossed up in the air. Everything's like sort of fair game, right? So in general, habits are pretty resistant to like information-based techniques to change the behavior. And instead, things like those cues, like I mentioned, cue, interpretation, action, reward, those cues, once those things kind of need to be changed in order for that habit, whether it's a bad habit you're trying to kick, you need to change the cue, or a good habit you're trying to bring on, you need to like kind of create a cue. So in this case, when things are like thrown all about and our lifestyles are kind of confused and we're trying to figure out what our schedules are looking like, those habits are kind of gone and those cues might be gone altogether. So it's almost like, and this is like the idea of habit discontinuity in general. It's this idea that right now is actually a great time to start working on new habits, because your old habits or your just like day-to-day lifestyle, like those things that are usually very concrete, very automatic, are kind of like unfrozen. So normally you just kind of like go about your day, you get to the end of the day, and maybe if your new habit that you've been trying to work on is, let's say, like drink more water or something, you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh my God, the whole day's gone. Like, I guess I'll drink 150 ounces right now. But instead, like right now, we don't have that like every day, like step by step, this is how my day looks. So we have like more opportunity to make decisions, make choices. We have to like be just like more conscious than we ever have been before. And it's actually a fantastic opportunity to make those decisions, make those choices that are more in line with the things that you want to do, the person you want to be, and so on and so forth. So the idea of habit discontinuity in general is just this idea that when life gets tossed up in the air, your like lifestyle, your habits are like kind of just disrupted in general, this actually can create sort of like a mood for change, even though you think that like it's not the best time to make changes. And this, like, we could go a whole nother rabbit hole with like where your mindset is at right now, but like starting to like see it from this angle and understand that, yeah, everything is like different and not like your day-to-day habits, behaviors, routines, things like that are not the same. So instead of being like panic mode, right? Like, what do I do? How do I schedule? How do I work from home? How do I take care of the kids and also work from home? Like, how do I do all this stuff? Think like, okay, this is an opportunity because like I have to be very conscious. I have to make these decisions, these choices, and I have a chance to like actually make them line up with the things that I maybe want to change or do differently, and things like that. So as soon as you just like come into that realization, it can be huge. So that's why I'm really excited to just like share this idea with people, because once they kind of like understand that this even exists, it's kind of like, whoa, you're right. But like, I never had thought about it that way because I was too busy buying toilet paper. So.
Yeah. Like how you were describing, like going to work, doing these things all automatically. It's like you're on automatic pilot. Like, you know how you leave your house and you start driving somewhere and you're like, wait, I'm not going there. I need to go here. So now you have this opportunity to create this new thing, right? Like this is why I get so excited about all this time, because I was like, oh my gosh, I now can do this, this, and this. But it is setting up that structure. And so can you talk about cues? Like when you say, when your alarm goes off, so what are some cues that are like easy cues for people to start new habits, like new beneficial habits?
Yeah. So let's keep using the example of maybe drinking more water, just since it's easy.
Yeah.
It's something that we can still do at home, and we should hopefully still have water supply throughout all of this madness.
Right.
But some things that you can do to start to just like create this habit in a little bit different lifestyle changes that are happening right now. So a cue, for example, of drinking more water might be like, so I have a cup that is like 25 ounces and I chug it first thing in the morning. And that's been part of my morning routine, something that it's pretty much a habit at this point. You wake up in the morning, you're pretty parched because you've been fasting all night long as you're sleeping. So maybe if you were to change, you wanted to add more water into your daily intake, like having a cup just like somewhere where you're going, right? So like something really important when you're creating a new habit, just in general, that you can, it's like kind of like a habit hack, is trying to tie it to something that you're already doing habitually. So alarm goes off, you brush your teeth, you go downstairs to start the coffee, your cup is right there, right? So putting that cup right there is like, okay, that's my cue that I need to like, now it's not just like alarm, brush teeth, drink coffee, go on with my day. It's alarm, brush teeth, drink coffee, fill up my water, drink that. So it turns into like, you kind of like, they call it habit stacking, or temptation bundling is another one. It's a little bit different, but it actually works in this case because most people are excited about the coffee. So it's like, oh, you can't have your coffee until you drink your water kind of situation. So kind of like bundling it with something that you're excited about having or doing or something like that. It works well with folks who are just maybe getting back into the gym and they want to just like get on the treadmill, go for a walk, something like that, like bundling it with like a podcast, or you get to watch your favorite TV show, things like that. It's helpful there too. So between like actually creating a cue or just attaching it to something else, whether it's something you enjoy or just like something that you're already doing habitually, whether it's like something enjoyable or not, those are kind of a few really good ways.
Yeah. And so like, I'm almost done with Atomic Habits, which is like, all these things sound so familiar. And I'm like, yes. And I love the book. But so some of the times people, and I've noticed this with my coaching style, is I'm like, okay, eat more or set this vegetable goal for people, but they don't even have the habit of buying vegetables, let alone cooking vegetables and setting out a day to prep. And so just, can you talk through like how to ease in that it's okay to start small? Like you said, just set out a cup. That is like the habit before the habit. Like you have to set out a cup to know to drink. So
just set out the cup first. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And with the case of like buying vegetables, you're just not even like, how am I supposed to start cooking vegetables if I don't even buy vegetables? So it's like, it is a little bit of a process of like reverse engineering. And if you're a coach, or if this is with yourself, like this is a really important kind of process to work through. So it's not just like, yep, go do like the thing and good luck. Like more often you do it, the quicker it'll become a habit, like you're good to go. Like that's not really how it works, right? And then the more, when you do that, the chances of you like having setbacks or just like failing at it altogether are much higher. And then your chances of just not doing it are obviously higher because of that. So what I would suggest is still like going back to kind of like, well, what are you already doing that we can kind of tie it to? So if you are like making a grocery list or like have I have a running list in my phone that's like things that we need to get. So I'll just always constantly be like adding, oh, we need like to get some spray oil, or oh, we need to grab some cocoa powder. So like as they happen, I like adding it to this list in my phone. So I wonder if like there is something like that that you're already doing that you just like keep like vegetables at the top of it. Like that doesn't move ever, you know, like add it now as we're talking about it. Not necessarily like allowing yourself like time to forget to do it. So it's just like when we're talking about it right now, like go put it in your phone, go put it. So it's always there and it's never getting like erased. So something like that would be good. So then once you get to the store, you don't really have an excuse that you couldn't remember because it's on your list with everything else and you would have done it far before. So that's a good way to do it. Also just like, obviously with those things, like how do you like to prepare your food right now? Like everybody eats, right? Everybody's eating. So like, how are you eating right now that we can just like adjust it to like include more vegetables and just like make it easier in general with habit formation or trying to get rid of old habits, bad habits, things like that. There's a big component is just like friction in general. So like for creating new habits, we want to create less friction. For getting rid of old habits, we want to create more friction to doing that. So if we want to add more vegetables to our meals, like how can we make it as easy as possible is really what we should be thinking on and focusing on. So whether that is like having frozen vegetables all the time, always something on hand so you don't have to worry about it like going bad, or getting things like spinach that can be pretty much added to anything, you know,
Anything.
things like that are really, really good. Whereas like with breaking bad habits, like if, for example, you are trying to get off your phone later at night, so like 9 p.m. rolls around and that's when you want your cutoff time to be, like unplug the Wi-Fi. What are you going to do now? You know, like, but just like making it really hard or really easy. And like, yes, this is really effortful at first, but it has to be. And that's just like kind of like a hurdle in your mind you have to get over, because habits we think are like effortless and I should just be able to do it without like any problem. And no, it just should come naturally. And like, yes, eventually, but you have to put the work in first. So unplug the Wi-Fi, like write spinach down on your notepad and always keep it there until like eventually it's just like, oh, you just find yourself grabbing spinach. You're like, wow, I didn't even realize I did that. Or your fridge just happens to always be stocked with this stuff because you hardly even have to think about it. Or you're just not on your phone at night anymore and you don't have to necessarily unplug your Wi-Fi to do so. So putting in kind of the work up front to have that more like automatic process later on is kind of the best way to go about that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think sometimes like, you hear like so-and-so's doing it, so it must be easy. And like you start judging yourself and thinking, well, if I'm not able to cook these vegetables, I must be someone who's not good at eating vegetables. And so like staying away from the identity of like, if your goals are in alignment with somebody who wants to eat vegetables, someone who wants to drink more water, associate yourself with that, right? Like I heard it was in Atomic Habits again, like casting votes daily for the new identity that you want. So it's really important not to like, cause the old me sucks at budgeting, but the new me, I have a budget. I look at it every single day. No, I'm not where I want to be financially, but like I'm getting there. And that's the habit that I started in the new identity. So I think it's really important not to see other people and think they've got it nailed and there's something wrong with you because you're struggling with drinking water, like.
I love that. And that all comes back to like good old mindsets, right?
Yes.
Like it really is like with fixed mindsets in general, like big, like just like broad definition of a fixed mindset is thinking that like all of these things are either happening to you or not happening to you because of the type of person you are, and not necessarily like attributing to your circumstances or your skill level or your ability and things like that. You just think, well, I'm just not the type of person who can XYZ, or I'm the type of person who can never follow through, so it's not going to happen, or I've tried all these things and obviously it's not working for me, so it never will. That sort of thing, like that identity piece is huge. And we see that a lot in the research. I saw it in my own research, like the connection between mindset and success in your whatever goals they are, what be it health, behavior change, or otherwise, that connection is actually, they call it mediating. So there's actually a variable in the middle so it's not necessarily that mindsets directly affect like your goal success, that because your mindset is affecting some other stuff in between. And one of those big things is your identity. So whether you like value something for it being like a part of who you are, essentially. So like, for instance, in a paper that I published a couple years ago, we found that those who have a growth mindset of exercise, so they believe that they can just become like a more fit individual, they can become just like have a higher fitness level, things like that. They believe that they can change their exercise and like who they are as an exerciser, like that went and had a relationship with their fitness self-value, which is essentially just defined as like if they identify themselves as someone who exercises or someone who like frequently exercises to that degree. And that in turn increased how often they were actually going to the gym. So yes, having a growth mindset about exercise meant more exercise, but it's because it was like affecting how they like valued exercise and how they identified with exercise.
Yeah. And it was putting the priority on the fact that they want to, yeah, that's really cool. Yes. You know me, I like gravitate towards you because I'm like, oh, you talk mindset. And like you said, you've been on your Instagram, you've been researching mindset before it was even cool on Instagram. So like, that's been my favorite part of getting into this coaching space is the mindset work selfishly that I've gotten to go through myself. But then that's like my like excitement to help people, especially through, because it's new opportunity. It's new opportunity for growth all around. Not just, you know, setting new habits, but actually creating the mindset around the fact that you can be ahead of, like, you could do really well even in this crazy situation.
Correct.
So.
And it's funny how like everything I talk about in psychology is always going to come back to mindset stuff, whether it's like some sort of theory of this or theory of that, or habits this, habit that. Like at the end of the day, if you have a growth mindset about something, like it's going to be a lot easier to see current situations as like an opportunity, which then habit discontinuity kind of comes into play here. How it's just like, instead of seeing it as like, oh my God, my life is in shambles, it's like, oh my God, my life is in shambles, which means there's like a bunch of cracks and stuff in here that I can look into so I can start to create new habits. I can make new decisions and choices. And like, I actually have like this, like these conscious choices that before my day was just like automatically happening. So yeah, totally all ties back to mindset, which is why I love it so much.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so Kasey, can you tell us where to find you? Because I know you're on Instagram, but is that your main
Yep, I
home?
hang out on Instagram the most. Every once in a while, I'll post on Facebook or LinkedIn, but like probably not the biggest priority. But yeah, Coach Kasey Joe on Instagram. I also, what would be really cool that you could probably tag in here is I have like a free habit formula that people
Oh,
walk through, and it essentially like it's like an interactive forum essentially. So it helps you pick out the specific behaviors that you can work on to best support your goals. And so during this time, this is a perfect opportunity to work through something like that, because you might have a couple extra minutes on your hands and you might be thinking like, oh wow, like I am like light bulb moment here, habit discontinuity, like what can I work on? How can I like improve myself during this time? So this might give you just a better thing. Like it's almost like a journal prompt after journal prompt to help you like work through and build what exactly you want to work on during this time.
oh, I love that. And I've given away a habit tracker, and so you can go ahead and like change whatever habit you want, because I have a few set. But by all means, like I'm like, hey, if you want to work on one, if you want to work on all of them, if you want to work on a custom one, it's just a good chance to track it and stay consistent and let that be your identity, you know?
Right,
So
exactly. And that's what's really great about all of this stuff in general too, is like, it's never too much, right? Like if you have multiple different kinds of trackers for them, and then I'm like, oh, well, here's this formula thing too, like maybe use the formula, then use the trackers, use them simultaneously. Like, and it depends, like people are so different. And that's why like coaches are awesome, right?
yeah.
We get to actually help them work through specific scenarios, like what works for them, how they learn best, etc. So like the more exposure you have to this stuff too, the more growth minded you will just become over time, because you're like, oh, this stuff is everywhere. Like, oh, I can create new habits whenever I want. I just have to do X, Y, Z and put the effort in and figure out what works for me. And so yeah, the more they're doing stuff, more being exposed to this, like the better in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I hope you and Sam stay healthy. Yeah. Yes.
We will do our best.
Yes. Yeah. Right on. Well, have a good evening and thanks again.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sarah.
Bye.